Let's look at the history of the Frosty Mug. You can walk into almost every office building in Wiggins, and somebody in there worked for the Frosty Mug when they were a teenager. That's what the Frosty Mug is, and that's the way I approach it. Well, every decision you make affects the town. So you always have to keep in mind, especially when it comes to the burgers, you just don't change the burgers. The Frosty Mug, we will always be here. Consistency is the most important thing to me, and something in their life is consistent no matter how bad things are. The Frosty Mug is here for them to give them that banana split, give them that Lotta burger, whatever they need to feel better.
Hello everyone, I'm very excited to share this first bottled up episode of 2023. Today we talk with Mr. Tim Thibideau of the legendary Frosty Mug in Wiggins, Mississippi. Mr. Tim and his wife Jan, lifelong successful entrepreneurs who have a track record of always finding juicy business opportunities, took over the Frosty Mug in 2008 and have maintained and evolved the excellent food, consistent presence, and the essential community hub that is the Frosty Mug. On this episode, Mr. Tim fills us in on their small town origins, what makes their burgers so legendary, upgrades coming to their legacy menu, and the importance and future of keeping the Frosty Mug around for its customers, past and present staff, and the Mississippi Gulf Coast. So let's sit back, listen, and find out what it's like to run and grow a legendary 65-year landmark establishment and brand. Thank you for coming on, Mr. Tim.
Oh, thank you for having me.
So the Frosty Mug, if those of you who have never been up to Wiggins area and gone to your restaurant, explain to the audience what the Frosty Mug is and what you guys specialize in.
Well, the Frosty Mug is a old style concession stand, basically. And we specialize in hamburgers and hot dogs and ice cream products, and we actually have a rather extensive menu, so it's really difficult, but hamburgers is our specialty.
I do know that y'all still make floats and things of that nature, which a lot of places have kind of gone away from, especially locally owned places. So if you're ever in the area of Wiggins and you want a good old fashioned, root beer float or anything like that to go along with a hamburger, the Frosty Mug is a good spot to try out. So I did see that you guys are going to be celebrating next year in 2025. Y'all will be celebrating a 65th anniversary. So what year did you guys decide to get into the business of owning a restaurant?
Well, we actually purchased the Frosty Mug in 2008. Of course, it's been around since 1960. And so we kind of bought into a legacy of here in town. So we were very much aware of that when we purchased it, and we still hold that very dear to ourselves.
So you purchased it from another party. So what is the story of the people who owned it before you guys? And she or he just ready to pass it on to somebody else? Because I know it's kind of a large responsibility, making sure that, especially in a community like Wiggins, where everyone's kind of tight knit, you want to make sure that you don't try to change too much because it is kind of a staple in the community, correct?
Yes, it is. The Frosty Mug was originally opened and started by Coach Pal Roberts and Miss Betty Roberts of Wiggins. They were here in the education system in Wiggins. In fact, Coach Roberts is a pretty well-known coach up here, and he and several other coaches, in fact, all across the Gulf Coast, were concerned about where their players were hanging out at. So Coach Roberts built the Frosty Mug and opened it up. If you've ever heard of the Frosty Top, I believe in Long Beach, there's another small concession style restaurant over in Picayune. Those kind of restaurants, when you find them, if they're still open, they were all built about the same time period by a group of coaches that really just needed to keep tabs on their players.
Wow. Okay. So that's very interesting. So they basically created a hangout place where they could watch their players and make sure they didn't get any trouble before and after practice, correct?
That's correct. And I believe the Rebel Dip is also one of those facilities.
Yes. Yes, so that would be for Harrison Central. So basically, if you look at where those are located, they're normally located right in and around a high school.
Yes.
I never put two and two together on that, Mr. Tim. It's very interesting that you would create and invest in infrastructure and then get into a business specifically to keep tabs on your players. That's something I don't think anybody would do that nowadays. You know what I mean?
Yes, that's due to the nature of the restaurant business. That would be very risky. But in a small town like Wiggins, back in the 60s, possibly back in the 70s, but not so much due to the way society has changed. The 60s, it probably was an ideal idea, and I think it says a lot about the town. They really, really treasured their children, because a small town is like a big family.
Absolutely.
And it's important to keep the family together.
Mr. Tim, do a lot of the high school kids and a lot of people who come to your restaurant, is it still kind of the same way? Is it still considered a hangout amongst school kids?
I wouldn't say the teenagers are hanging out here much anymore. I would say that their parents and their grandparents do. Younger kids today, they're not to drop any names, but they're Walmart children. Their hangout is Walmart. So when they got time, they're hanging out at Walmart, wandering around. They don't. But we are getting more and more teenagers coming back to us as time goes on.
Well, I think that's good. What would you say the number one thing that you sell at the Frosty Mug? What would be your number one? Would it be that burger?
Yes, so the Ladder Burger is our number one seller, and it's pretty much a tradition. We make it the same way, and what I say by make it is we construct it the same way. The veggies are put on the same way it was back in the 1960s, and it gives it a different flavor than, say, if you go to basically any other kind of restaurant.
Right. What is the difference between that burger and, let's say, a burger that you get from, I don't know, just any fast food place? How do you guys differentiate yourselves from other places?
Well, nowadays it's very difficult and it's very expensive to make your patties by hand. So as with everybody now in the modern age, we get ours already frozen, but we cook them on a flat grill that has been used since we've owned it, plus when the second owners had the place. So that flat plate is probably about 30 years old. So it's been seasoned for 30 years.
Wow. Okay.
We season our patties with our own mixture of spices. When we construct our burgers, pretty much all the veggies go on the bottom of the patty. So when you bite into the burger, you're going to taste all of the different flavors, because people tend to forget. People at home, when they make their burgers,
they do the opposite.
They do the opposite because, the meat's flat. So I'm going to put it on the bottom of the bun, on the bottom bun. But your taste buds are where?
They're on your tongue.
They're on your tongue. So when you bite into that burger, you want to taste all the different flavors. So if you put the veggies on the bottom, you're going to get all those flavors and the meat. And when that happens, the response is totally different than if you have everything loaded on the top.
Well, I'm going to have to, next time I do a cookout at my house, I'm going to have to try it y'all's way and see the difference. Having something, especially like I've said, in a community like Wiggins, and we spoke with the owner of the Whistle Stop. I know that y'all take care of one another in that community as well, because, you have to, if you're a hometown restaurant, you have to take care of one another. But when you're an owner of a restaurant like that in a small business, you do kind of have a responsibility, like you said, to keep things the way they are, to make sure that you dress the burger the way it's been dressed since the 60s. And, someone who's lived in that community who, let's say is a senior citizen or someone who's, in their 60s or 70s can come back and eat the same burger that they had when they were a kid. It's pretty incredible, to be honest. And I think that y'all are definitely going at it the right way, is to not change anything too much, because people come back and they want that nostalgia. I guess my question is, if you've made any changes, how hard of a decision is it to make any changes with a restaurant like that?
Well, every decision you make affects the town.
Right.
So you always have to keep in mind, especially when it comes to the burgers, you just don't change the burgers.
Right.
The mugs pretty much always sold straight fries, but now we sell crinkle fries because crinkle fries are extremely popular. I don't know why, but the research shows that a lot of people like crinkle fries. So we switched to crinkle fries. That's a safe move because it's still a fry.
Right. There's a low risk. There's
a small risk, but that's a niche that you might be able to fulfill. A lot of big box restaurants have single burgers, double burgers, so forth. So we said, well, if someone wants a two patty Lotta burger, I'm not going to stop them from getting two pieces of meat.
Right.
So we actually have a triple Lotta burger with three pieces of meat. It's almost a pound of meat, and we sell a lot of them. I'm startled sometimes about how much meat someone is putting on their burgers, but that's up to them. If they can get their mouth around it, I say hooray for you.
Absolutely. You can't have too much of a good thing when it comes to that.
There you go. We always had hot dogs. You can order a hot dog and you can put condiments on it. We have chili and, the cheese and nacho cheese and so forth. But then we got to thinking and said, what if we broke it out and made specific hot dogs and advertised them as specific hot dogs? And our hot dog sales jumped up, I would say at least 300%.
That was smart. So basically you're telling me that now you have a Chicago dog. You have, you're doing specific types.
That's right. We have a Chicago dog. We have a salty dog. We have our chili cheese dog, which is a traditional one. We have a Lotta dog, which is basically whatever we put on the hamburger, we put on the hot dog. So it's just a hot dog with all the fixings we put on the Lotta burger. And we saw quite a few of those too. Our salty dogs seem to be really popular though.
Is there anything that's coming up that you guys are planning in the next year or so, as far as restaurant items, any changes that are going to be made, anything like that?
Well, I do know that my wife is going to be repainting the outside of the building again to give us kind of a new, fresh and updated look. Food wise, we're getting ready to break out our fried potatoes. How everyone's got chili cheese fries or, that sort of thing. We have barbecue fries, things that are normally on our menu, but we're going to break them out. We have Philly fries, but we're just going to really be highlighting them and coming up with different kind of other combinations that are really tried and true because they're actually used in other forms in the store, as far as like the burgers or the hot dogs or so forth. But we're just going to center them around our fries and give them the option of crinkle fries or Cajun fries or tater tots.
So y'all are getting heavy into the potato products.
Surprisingly enough, we've been talking about it now for a while. We're getting ready to, and of course, potato fries are going up right now. The price of them are starting to go up. So we're still going to do it, even though the cost of French fries are going up. But yeah, we're looking forward to that. We think they'll go over really good. All of our fries we sell now are really popular, especially our Philly fries, Philly steak.
Yes, absolutely.
And we'll probably even think of something to do with onion rings as well. So onion rings are extremely popular here in Wiggins, and we sell a lot of them.
I do understand the costs of everything going up. I mean, we're seeing it in our side of the business as well. Raw materials, COGS, every December, we normally get an increase from parent company that says, listen, here's how much we're estimating we're going to go up. And then in January it hits. So I feel your pain when it comes to that type of mindset of, not wanting it to pass down to the customer and how you feel, because you understand, that everybody's on a budget and everybody, you want to try to have everything as cheap as possible, but you're still trying to run a business at the same time. So what are some of the things that you guys internally are looking to try to do, or since you've been in the restaurant business for, a decade and a half, what are some of the things that you guys try to do to offset some of these costs of food?
Well, unfortunately, some of the people around me, like my bankers and so forth, they always immediately jump to, you have to increase your price.
Right.
Basically, you have to make a profit. And it is, for me, probably one of the hardest things in my life I've ever had to do is to actually consider raising the price of something. So a lot of times I tend to have to just eat the extra cost myself until there's absolutely no way I could possibly turn a profit. So I usually wait till the last minute to do that. I don't rush out to it. It's not my first choice to go to.
Absolutely not.
But we do it not by just keeping our eyes on the prices. We have 2 or 3 different vendors that we go with, and we're constantly on lookout for a deal. so that we can try to keep the price from having to go up. And it's just a matter of shopping around. We might have to adjust our labor a little bit. I don't like to do that either, but I know that's tough for people. They got to make a living.
Yeah.
I'm responsible for a lot of people.
Yeah, I know the feeling. You want to try to make everybody happy all at once, and sometimes there's no other decision that's going to make every single person happy.
Absolutely correct.
So you got to make those tough calls, but I think that your heart's in the right place, Mr. Tim. Not wanting to have to raise prices because you have loyal customers and you have regulars in Wiggins, so you don't really want to upset them too much.
Right. And for the most part, a lot of them, understand it nowadays. I think people understand it a little bit more than what they used to. I've always believed it's been a real big thing about that. I wish just in general, not just locally, but I mean, as far as regionally and if not nationally, there should be more talk on teaching people more about economics, about what's going on. I mean, most people are not aware of what it takes to make a restaurant run, or for that matter, a grocery store, because they see prices going up in the grocery store. They just don't understand what it entails. They just see the end product.
Yep. And they see numbers. I mean, everything is connected. The price of this is connected to the price of that. And normally they're two products you don't even think about going together.
Right.
As far as employees, how many employees do you guys have on staff at the Frosty Mug right now?
We have 10 employees on staff right now.
This is a trend that I've kind of noticed in other businesses, but do you ever pull directly kids from either high school students or things like that of that nature to have come and work at the Frosty Mug? Is that something that you guys do?
We always enjoy having young people come and apply to work. We have about 3 teenagers on staff right now.
Okay.
We would love more, but it's tough to pull teenagers nowadays.
I know it is.
Work. And so the ones we have, we cherish their training. We adjust attitudes. We teach them customer service, how to deal with adults. It's it's an education, and some kids are capable of wanting to be educated, and then there are some that they don't want to learn it, so they don't last very long.
Yes, I've seen that up close and personal, honestly, and there's always that one or two who surprise you.
Yes, I have one of my employees I have in staff right now. She's in her mid-20s, but her mother worked at the Frosty Mug when she was a teenager.
Oh, wow. So she's second generation.
She's second generation. She left us for a while. She worked when she was a teenager, and she left to go off and see the world a little bit. And she moved back into town, and she come back and said, I want to come back and work here. And I said, well, okay. We've actually had several people that have gone and come back, and they start with us back again, but then they find something else, and I'm okay with that. Frosty Mug is a business that is for training people and teaching them about how to deal with people, how to deal with fellow coworkers. And I don't expect them to spend the rest of their life in the Frosty Mug. When they feel that they're ready to go off and do something different, I am all for it. I'm not going to sit there and go, oh, I wish you'd stay, please stay. That's not my job. My job is to prepare them to fly.
Right.
And let them go and fly. There's nothing better. We had one young man that worked for us. He left us. He went to college. He became a police officer. He eventually became a police detective. I've had people that have gone and become teachers. And let's face it, let's look at the history of the Frosty Mug. You can walk into almost every office building in Wiggins, and somebody in there worked for the Frosty Mug when they were a teenager.
That's very neat.
That tells you right there. That's what the Frosty Mug is. And that's the way I approach it. That's what we're here to do. That's what it's done its entire life here in Wiggins. And I think other facilities like ours, they have the same mission. I take it very seriously.
Well, it's a legacy. It's almost a forgotten past. Like that. What you're describing is something that is dying off in America. You guys are an institution that something a community needs. It's very interesting to hear you just describe it as you could go in every office building in the city and someone in there had worked there. And you have the responsibility of making sure that legacy stays on.
Yes.
I wanted to ask you, what businesses did you do before your wife and yourself purchased the Frosty mug in 2008?
Well, initially we did virtual reality pods down at Edgewater Mall. That was fun, did really well there, but we wanted to get into laser tag as well because at that time it was growing. It was called Laser Nights. And then we had the opportunity to go over to the Pops Ferry area. And initially we actually had paintball and laser tag, but the paintball was much more popular than the laser tag. So we stripped out the laser tag portion and increased the indoor paintball field. That had one time, I think, was a Winn-Dixie or a Kroger's. And in any case, it was an entire grocery store, 33,000 square feet facility. And we really had a lot of fun with the paintball.
I went there. It was a lot of fun. I remember you had a whole kitchen area. It was like an industrial kitchen, and you had Western half moon doors that opened and closed in a long hall. I still remember the whole layout. Yeah. So we played, my friends and I played paintball there whenever we were teenagers. So I commend you on that. It seems like it's kind of interesting how you had kind of a finger on the pulse of all of the trends, either whether it be tech trends or fads of the time. And you kind of went in that direction with every next business or step that you went. And it's a little ironic how you ended up for the last decade and a half owning a nostalgic soda fountain kind of hamburger place. Don't you find that kind of interesting?
It is. It's part of I guess we would call it an evolution. To me, it's just being aware and looking for opportunity.
Right.
For me in my life, I have had so many opportunities. When I see a door that opens, I can tell you that in all my businesses, my initial investment has been near zero money. I know that probably blows your mind a little bit, but it's true. An opportunity comes, negotiate it, we go in, it's successful or as successful as it can be, and then another opportunity comes and we move on to the next one. Just the whole point, of course, is to just continue to grow, gain experience, and just try to be part of people's lives. I'm a people person. I like to have exposure to a lot of people. I just like to interact with people on a pretty grand scale when possible, especially young people, because when they're fun, they keep you alive when you start getting up here into this age that we're in. And I have to say that is true. When we got done with the paintball field, we moved over and we purchased the Hollywood Theater over at Edgewater Village.
Yes.
And we operated that for a little over 2 years. We had a lot of fun with that. I love the movie industry, and I really enjoyed owning the movie theater. Did that for a few years and actually was assistant manager at the IP's movie theater. And then when the IP dropped their movie theater, I moved over into their IT department, and I worked in their IT department. And then Jan had, where she was working, they did a upper management shuffle. They eliminated her position.
Right.
And so she went out in search of work. And my wife is very experienced, and it's tough to find someone that has a whole lot of experience to find a job. A lot of people don't want to hire someone that's got that much experience. So she was having a little difficulty, but I'd say it was just God stepping in and saying, that's your opportunity. She was driving up here through Wiggins, drove by the Frosty mug. There was a sign with a number. She called me up on the telephone. She said, I saw a sign with a number. I said, what is it? And she said, it's the Frosty mug. This is what it looks like. And what do you think? And I said, sounds like fun. Let's go ahead and do it. And so we made a couple phone calls, and about less than a month later, we were open.
I can't believe that. That's incredible, Mr. Tim. I mean, just, you seem like you're a guy who really likes to have a good time, as well as likes to work and run a business, because every business that you just told us about is something that is fun. whether it be VR, paintball, laser tag, a movie theater, it's people enjoying themselves, having fun. Like that's a kind of a great way to go through life I mean, you can work hard, you can get things done. And that's kind of how we operate here. Is the end result has to be the same, but it's how much fun or how are you getting to that end is really the process. So I commend you and your wife on taking over a staple business like this in the community where people are pretty loyal to businesses like that. So I think that it's a really great story.
Thank you. It's one I don't get to tell too often because I think a lot of people don't really believe it. I've been blessed in my life that I've really never done a job or worked any place that I didn't want to work at or didn't enjoy working at.
Right.
No matter what it was, even as from a teenager all the way up to today, I've always pretty much done what I've wanted and enjoyed doing it. And when people hear that story, they're like, that's just crazy. But it's not crazy. It's just how you look at it, I guess. I I want people to I want to be with people and help people grow. My next adventure, in fact, I'm already in the preliminary planning of it. Is I'm hoping to open a community theater up here in Wiggins, and it's been on my heart now for a couple of years. But with the pandemic and so forth, a lot of that's been put on hold. But I'm hoping to be able to move forward with that.
So you're talking about putting on a local community theater where basically you can produce plays and things in the Wiggins area.
Yes, we have a lot of extremely talented people here in Wiggins that if they want to perform, they have to go down to the coast. Nothing against those theaters because I love those theaters as well. Center Stage, Lux Little Theater. I want something local and introduce a little more arts to the community. The community wants to grow and move toward, that sort of thing, I guess, in their future. And I'm here to help the community grow too, not just, individuals. I mean, I want to help my community.
Well, the Frosty mug seems to be woven into it's. You can't have one without the other. I mean, there seems to be interwoven within the community itself.
Yes, I was just going to say that's why in the future, if for any reason I was to step down here at the Frosty Mug, I would always make sure that, whatever was next to come, if the page turns or when the page turns, that those that come in will have the same mindset or a similar mindset because the mug to me is a pillar in this community. And
Absolutely.
I've actually had people in town tell me, it's important that the Frosty Mug be here and be open. And I feel honored and blessed that they would say that because that's my thinking as well.
Tim, I think it's an interesting decision. And I know that from all the businesses that you were in, a lot of the businesses that you had before you guys went into the Frosty Mug were based upon teenage kids and adolescent kids, where you're basically the people who are normally your customers. So have you thought about getting into anything like that, or the Frosty Mug basically takes up a large majority of your time or all of your time?
The Frosty Mug takes up the majority of my time now. I'm hoping to kind of let go a little bit and let my manager handle some primary operations to free me up. I have taught before. I am a teacher by trade, but high school, middle school is what I've taught before.
What subject did you teach, Mr. Tim?
I prefer science and
Okay.
history. I taught a little English here and there,
Well,
but
good for you.
I enjoy doing that. I enjoy that age group. I like to help work with them so that they can become better citizens, become better people. To just help them along because they don't have a lot of kids nowadays don't have consistency in their life because both parents work or it's a single parent family. And I feel myself personally, called to help and just be a stable element in a child's life just so that they can feel safer and more confident in themselves.
That's nice, Mr. Tim. I think that's incredible. A lot of teachers I know, they kind of feel the same way. To actually want to do it for the right reasons, to make a change in a child's life is a great thing. You sound like you are pretty thorough and you kind of have experience when it comes to technology. So what have you done at the Frosty Mug to kind of upgrade the technology with the restaurant?
Well, when we purchased the business, of course, it had the good old fashioned button registers and so forth. So we went with an upgraded, more high tech, I guess. It's just screens and you push on buttons on the screen and one of them touch screen type systems. Of course, we also went from old menu boards to I mounted TVs on the outside by the ordering windows that has our menu up on there all the time. I did that myself. I didn't buy a program for that. My wife did all the designing of the logos and how they're set up. She's pretty savvy when it comes to working with Excel.
Okay, cool.
So she did that for me, and we just recently bought a pager system because we're an outside facility. We have no indoor seating, and sometimes it's a little cold, sometimes it's a little wet. So we just bought a pager system. So if you come and order, we'll give you a pager, and then it'll go off when your food is ready. So you can just come up to the window and get it. So you don't have to sit out on the front porch and freeze.
That's a definite necessity upgrade.
It's an amazing thing. Plus, we're not yelling so much. The girls used to have to yell the orders out the window to get folks' attention, and now we don't have to do that. They just come up with their pager, and we give them the food, and they seem to like it a lot. The customers think it's quite a novel thing.
Oh, I would totally agree. That way you can sit in the comfort of your car and you can just wait. And I imagine that you guys are pretty quick when it comes to getting the food in and out.
Well, I have to say, we try to be as quick as we can. If we're not that busy, we can be super quick. However, and a lot of times, especially because we are an outdoor seating place, a lot of people, when they order their food, they don't realize how many call-ins we have. They don't realize, they don't know what's going on inside the building. So sometimes they have to sit and wait for their food for a while, and they get a little agitated sometimes. We just have to be as pleasant as we can and just say, there was 15 orders in front of your orders. So
Right.
we're trying to, yours will be up in just a moment. And when you get it, it's going to be hot.
Yeah, it's a people business, Mr. Tim. You know that. And you'll have those days. So I want to say that, as far as we're concerned, Allen Beverages, we really appreciate the business that we do together. I know that y'all were with our competitor for a really long time. And, you guys and a few years back decided to make the switch, and we want to support you any way we can. Our job is to make sure that when it comes to anything as far as beverages is concerned, that you don't have to worry about that. That's our job to worry about. That way you can worry about, your staff, your food, your customers, the building, and that kind of thing. So I just want to thank you for your business, Mr. Tim.
I'd like to thank Allen Beverages because, we were drowning with the previous company due to lack of services and just their increases that were occurring all the time. And y'all came out, Miss Morgan came out and spoke to my wife, Jan. And I could tell you that, especially during the pandemic, because as you know, a lot of businesses suffered during the pandemic.
Absolutely.
But, the Frosty Mug was blessed, and we were able to, actually grow during the pandemic. I just know that part of that reason is for Allen Beverages and all that you folks have done for us to help us advertise and keep our name out there.
Well, Mr. Tim, we look at your business as, this is a partnership. And I'm not your vendor. I'm not your soft drink vendor, right? My job isn't to sell you soft drinks. My job that's part of it. But my job is to make sure that you don't have to worry about anything. And if there's anything that we can do to go above and beyond that, whether it's, giving exposure, advertising, marketing for you guys, anything like that, that's where we come in. And we need to make sure that people understand who you are, where you are, and that you have delicious food and they need to come by and try your food. So I feel like that's part of our responsibility, and our job is, being a partner with you guys, is to go above and beyond, because that's how I would want, one of my business partners to do for us. So everything we do, we try to do it sincerely. We try to do it, we're a locally owned family business, just like you. and we try to make sure that we take care of our customers.
Well, you're doing a great job of it, and we certainly do appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Well, Mr. Tim, for people who don't know, where would be a good place to find the Frosty mug whenever they visited Wiggins? And also, where would be a good place if they wanted to kind of look at your menu or kind of check out the business online or Facebook or social media or anything like that? Where can they find that?
Well, our menu can be found at frostymugwiggins.com. And of course, they can always come and visit us up here live. We're at 514 Magnolia South here in Wiggins. It's just north of 26 when you get off Magnolia Road at 49. If you're heading northbound, the road kind of wise off, which takes you to downtown Wiggins.
Yes, sir.
Stay on that road. 26 crosses over. You go under the overpass. We're right there on the left. Right now, we're a clay brown building. We're going to be some kind of white building here in probably the coming months. But you'll see the Frosty Mug sign. Stop in, say hello. We sure do appreciate it. We're open, of course, from 11 to 8, Monday through Saturday. I only close for Christmas and Thanksgiving and Sundays. So the Frosty Mug, we will always be here. No matter what, consistency is the most important thing to me. And just being there for people and letting them know that, something in their life is consistent, no matter how bad things are. The Frosty Mug is here for them to give them that banana split, give them that Lotta burger, whatever they need to feel better.
Well, Mr. Tim, thank you for the time. Honestly, it's been really nice discussing this business with you, and how heartfelt the conversation was meant a lot to me, man. And I really do appreciate you coming on Bottled Up and sharing the story with us. It's a pretty incredible story, just how much weight it carries for a community, for a business like the Frosty Mug to be in, and just your mindset of helping people and the history of everything else that you've done. I really appreciate your business, really appreciate your time. And if there's ever anything that you need from us at Allen Beverages, you just reach out. We'll always be here to help you.
All right. Well, thank you very much. I've enjoyed my time on the show, and I appreciate you inviting me.
Yes, sir. Trust me, when I tell you keeping a 65-year-old establishment relevant and thriving is no easy task. Tim and his wife, Jan, have done a fantastic job with running and growing the Frosty Mug, and the community and the area are better off for their dedication, hard work, and success. Hangouts and community hubs like the Frosty Mug are what makes small town life so unique and appealing. And I'm glad to hear that Mr. Tim knows that reality and is making sure that when the time comes, whoever takes over the Frosty Mug will have to understand the importance of the history and consistency of this local landmark and legendary establishment. So if you're in the Wiggins area, do yourself a favor and visit this nostalgic treasure and try one of those famous Lotta burgers and specialty shakes. Thanks for listening to the Bottled Up Podcast. Want us to deliver this show into your email inbox as they drop? Want to tell us about how you like the show? Or you want to tell us about a Gulf Coast restaurant or bar you would like us to spotlight in upcoming episodes? Email Morgan at mwheeler, WHEELER, at abevinc.com. That's ABEVINC.com. Want to know more about Allen Beverages and how we work with our clients, partners, and vendors? Check out allenbeverages.com. This show was edited and produced by Johnny Gwynn and Deep Fried Studios.